Hi everybody. Another book here I wanted to share with you. In my quest to learn more about illustrating for children's books, this book was recommended to me actually by Professor Words About Pictures, The Narrative Art of Children's Picture Books by Perry Nodelman. Okay, who's Perry Nodelman? He's a children's book author and an expert about how pictures and text work together in children's books. So he has numerous scholarly articles about how these two things work together, why they work this way, and different perspectives about, I guess, even from cultures. So I don't recommend this book if you are not into heavy reading. This felt like reading a contemporary art book from class. So I was able to get through this because I'm really interested in the topic. So I found it fascinating, his approach about thinking about children's books. So like in the initial start of this book, I'm only halfway through it, but he's talking about picture books originally were created because the intended audience for children, they felt like, well, it's educational. So yeah, I'm on board with that. I bought a lot of children's books because I wanted them to be educational for my son and for my students. So because I also taught elementary school. So that was a great way of getting information to kids, and it was very entertaining for them. But it also looked deep diving into, it's hard to communicate with a small child about how their perception of things are, you know, because they don't have the way to discuss it or talk about it. So he goes into that. He talks about something called semiotics. If you don't know what that is, I'm not the person to explain that to you. It is basically a philosophy that, you know, this is a basic overview, but it's a philosophy, and it's the thought about why we attach meaning to certain words, or even if that meaning is relevant or not. There's a lot more to it. I would Google that and find a video on YouTube. But anyways, he even goes deep dives into that. He talks about how researchers have shown images to people of like different cultures, indigenous people from different parts of the world, and their perception, and how our culture influences how we read pictures, which I thought was really fascinating. He also goes into like different types of children's books, how those children's books are created in the sense of like what was intentionally done for those images to make them read with a narrative. So he breaks down, like, I wish I had it, but Marie Sendak, Where the Wild Things Are, you know, really well-known book. And so he goes down into this really interesting breakdown from like the size of the book to the way the images are, the illustrations, the size of them in relationship to the text. He talks about how the colors, even the technique of the illustrator, you know, what are all these things that illustrators do or make these choices to help communicate that narrative? Because ultimately, you know, people are going to have different agreements or disagreements about what illustration is, and some people believe it's almost equal to fine arts. That's fine. I'm a little bit different, and I think illustration is about communicating a narrative. But you also got to look at who I am. I pursue children's book illustration. So if I'm a children's book illustrator, I feel that the two go hand in hand, and they should. And he talks about how when they do work really well together, you know, what's happening, what are the things, those conscious choices that are being made, and to some extent maybe some are unconscious as well. So he even breaks it down into what I thought was another interesting thing about symbols, gestures, on say like covers of a children's book, and how